Let's do it live. What's up? What's up, y'all? Tonight we're talking about the new movie Megalopolis by Francis Ford Coppola. This is apparently a long time coming. This movie finally came out, and I went to see it so that you don't have to. So tonight I'm going to dive into this movie and talk about it. And I'm a like I wrote in the description here. I'm a generous person when it comes to movies, to movie analysis. You know, I one thing I can't abide in a movie is taking the audience for a fool. Now, many audiences are foolish. Do you find me foolish? Says Dennis. I can't take that with this, and I can't figure out. It's not that I can't figure out the movie. I can't figure out what he's doing here. Okay, not. I'm going to get into the into deconstructing this movie. It's not that I can't figure out what the movie is saying. I think that that's part of what I need to. I need my tools. What I need to discuss with you in terms of what the movie's doing, what it's saying. But I can't take when. Okay, let's just throw all that aside. This movie is partly. It's a passion project. He sunk all of his money into it. It sank, all right. It sank and it stank. And I didn't read any reviews of the movie. I still haven't read any. I'm not going to read any of the reviews of the film because I didn't want to get into the apologia for the movie. But yes, KF, Megalopolis. So here's what happens in the film. And I'm really generous with movies because a lot of times with films we can take exploratory movies that kind of go bad and we can find revelatory elements in them or predictive elements, predictive programming, all the stuff that we normally find in a film. But at its heart, a movie has to be it has to have some sort of cohesion to it. And if it's not cohesive, if it's totally chaotic, then that has to be for a reason. Now, Apocalypse Now is partly based in chaos. I mean, it's a chaotic movie because, like Coppola said, this is the beginning of Coppola's sort of pretensions. I mean, he said at the Cannes Film Festival when they won the Palme d'Or for Apocalypse Now that his movie is not like Vietnam. It's not about Vietnam. It is Vietnam. And a lot of people saw that as pretentious. And, people do either love or hate Apocalypse Now. Apocalypse Now is my favorite movie of all time, and I think it's the greatest movie of all time. I think it's a perfect film. Coppola is a magnificent, monolithic filmmaker, especially as an American filmmaker. I mean, The Godfather Part 1 and 2 are in just about every top 10 list. They're always there. We've covered The Conversation here. We've covered Bram Stoker's Dracula in 1992. I mean, that movie is fantastic. It sticks close to the text. It accomplishes what Bram Stoker sort of puts forth as a vision in his book. We did a book analysis and a movie analysis. I don't know what happened. I think he probably started to go wrong after Godfather 3. Now, Godfather 3 is also not as bad as how critics panned it. And a lot of times, movies that get bad reviews are oftentimes wrong, right? We've covered so many of those. We do the same with literature. A lot of times, artists can be so far ahead of their time that their contemporaries don't understand it. They're just too far ahead. They're too avant-garde. But the problem with this movie is that it's like the guy says in the Doors movie when Jim Morrison is at film school and Oliver Stone is the professor. You need your art spoon-fed to you, man. Well, that's what he does in this. He spoon-feeds the audience, and I don't know what to do with this movie because I even talked about it last summer on TNT with Hesher when we were talking about. I was reading about the movie, and what I said at the time was that American filmmaking in general needs something. It needs something new. It needs something more. There has to be the 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 medium has to evolve and move, and not like with the times. Not like this is like when you look at early 20th century poetry and T.S. Eliot versus Edward Arlington Robinson. Arlington Robinson was a popular poet of the time, but he was a weather vane. He sort of goes with however the trends go, and so he's almost completely forgotten today. Whereas T.S. Eliot is again is part of the Coppola of. I mean, he's mentioned in the Hollow Men is read in Apocalypse Now. The 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 subtitle for my channel is poet warrior in the classic sense. I mean that's from Apocalypse Now. This is Coppola. So I can't tell you how just disappointed I am when these filmmakers do this, when they go overboard and they just totally get lost. I think that I've really kind of torn apart two movies, really. I mean, sort of Civil War, Alex Garland's Civil War, but definitely Ridley Scott's Napoleon. And I think that with Godfather 3, with Coppola, he must have just fallen off because he made he made a movie called Tetro, which probably nobody here has seen. I've got it on DVD. It's a decent movie. It's black and white. It's kind of going back to the basics, and it's set in South America. It's I think it's an Argentinian movie. And then he did this movie called Twixt, which is terrible, with Val Kilmer, and it was a kind of vampire movie. But again, it's like an art. I think what Coppola is doing is he's accomplished these things, and filmmaking isn't going anywhere new. And so what do? The past is prologue. You try to go back into back to the basics. This often happens with like this. This is what they say about music releases, right? A band comes out with a killer first album. It's brand new. The second album is an attempted follow-up, but it's kind of a flop. And then the sophomore album. And then the third album is a back to basics, right? They always do that. But with this, he did that, but he gets lost in trying to make, this is really like a boomer utopia in extremis to the endpoint. Because what he's trying to paint a vision of the future, but the problem is that we're already in the future. So it's hard to make a prediction or to show, to show that you're going to go into the future and that this is the neo-Gnostic Eden, and we have the Masonic architect played by Hamlet, Julius Caesar in the film, where all of those things are sort of already on the surface. Okay, so where do I begin? So the movie is about if it's about anything, the movie is about Adam Driver as Caesar, spelled Cesar, so it gives an Italian. But I don't even know why he did that. I don't know why he would even change the spelling of the name to make it more Italianate instead of Latinate, when the rest of the movie has it's attempting to make a Roman version of the United States. But the problem is that the United States is already explicitly Romanesque. So all of the architecture and the iconography of the United States is Greco-Roman, mostly Roman. If you've ever been to Washington, D.C., you're in New Rome. So the movie is about New Rome, but there's even a line they get confused about the movie at the end of the film. There's a line where John Voight, who plays Crassus, says something about this is the country of New Rome, and then 30 seconds later, another character says, "What has come of America?" So do you see how inconsistent it is? The whole time you're watching the movie and you're thinking, is this an alternate United States? Is this an alternate America? Is this an interpretive, impressionistic version of America and where we're going in the future? But it's called New Rome instead of America. No, it is the United States, but it's like 3 centuries in the future. But it's not only unrealistic, it's untruthful. You don't need to go into an explicit Rome when we're already that. Does that make sense? So it doesn't make sense to have a theatrical avant-garde interpretation of the United States as a new Rome when we already have that. It would make more sense for the characters to be interpreted as these as Roman. Look, this book Cicero. Look how torn up this book is. This book talks about the very thing that he's discussed, and this is I didn't even mean to read this because of the film. So that's just we're so dialed in here, folks. But it doesn't make sense. Why would you have? Why we already have characters who seem like they are theatrical set pieces in real life, like they're just avatars for ancient Rome. I mean, our whole power structure is built on that, right? So we have a pyramidal power structure, and we have a patrician class, and we have an oligarchy, and we're already obviously in the long arc towards implosion. We already have that. I've covered this with Tacitus, Suetonius. I did the Annals of Imperial Rome. I did the 12 Caesars. I've talked about this a number of times, and we've talked about Caligula here. I wrote the book that I'm trying to get published. It's partly about Imperial Rome and about the degradation and the depravity with the emperors, right? So when we have Caligula, and then we have Nero, and then you go into the long arc that ends with the collapse of Rome from the inside because of the depravity. But the problem with this movie is that the parallels are so obvious, and I think that Coppola is out of touch with just how bad things are. I'm not trying to blackpill anybody. I just think that there's a scene in this movie where they're in a Colosseum, and it's called the Colosseum. We already have Colosseums. There's a Colosseum here. You're in the Colosseum, and the elites are on a dais, and they're watching a series of what is supposed to be, obviously, he's supposed to engender this sense of decadence and depravity and the fall of Rome. But it's supposed to be an allegory that is set in the United States. But what they're showing is nowhere near as bad as what we have on a daily basis. So, for instance, when you're showing, I was talking to Jethro about this weekend. When you're showing wrestlers sort of tearing themselves apart in a Coliseum, why would we be shocked that that's happening when we already have professional wrestling? Look, man, I'm not even versed in wrestling lore, but I know that you can watch Chris Benoit jump off a 16-foot ladder head first, right? I know that you can watch people. That's what wrestling is supposed to show. Wrestling is a theatrical version with athletes, right? That tells a story. I know that. I mean, I know almost nothing about professional wrestling, and I know that. It's entertainment. It's almost Romanesque entertainment, but telling a story. It's like a soap opera in theater on a stage. So what do you think the wrestling stage is? Slow boy, are you here? Kristen, are you here? Kristen, I thought you were at Sam Hyde. Hell yeah, still standing alive for Sam Hyde show. Yo, Kristen, we're so jealous. Kristen, so awesome. You better get a picture. You better get a picture afterwards. So sick. Very, very jealous of that. Sam and Nick were just talking about that. They were just talking about Chris Benoit and the things that professional wrestlers do and what they talk about. That other people, that would be a life event, and for them they just talk about it like it's nothing, like it's you driving home from work. Well, with the film, it's like tame. There was one scene I was watching it, and I even said aloud, like, our friends would watch this movie and they would go crazy over this scene, right? Because there's a scene where these sort of Taylor Swift characters are coming down, they're descending from the sky, they're in crescent moons, and we're seeing the Vestal virgins come down. They're supposed to be the lunar goddesses. There's an Artemis character, and then we find that there's a compromising scene where Adam Driver, who plays the Caesarian architect, is caught in compromat with one of the Vestal virgins, who is the daughter of one of the elites. But the problem is that is nothing compared to what we have now. That's nothing. I mean, for the last 100 years, that's nothing. It gets way worse than that. So I tried to give the movie credit, and I tried to think, well, is he doing this because this is supposed to be a generalized interpretation of compromat within the elite system and how these characters basically go through power plays? But it doesn't work. It doesn't work because if the intention is to shock, it doesn't shock. And if the intention is to show some sort of truth behind the veil, it doesn't do that. What's the movie about? You ask. Well, we have a character played by Adam Driver, who again is like he's the melancholy Dane, but he's also Caesar, and he has discovered this new chemical or whatever called megalon, and it's supposed to be a kind of a cobalt slash oil, a life changing element mixed with a kind of adreno version with a kind of hazy gold of being able to form and meld with your very life. So that could work in the film. Because what happens is it's an element that if this was going to be flushed out with 20th century history, it would be like thinking about how John Paul Getty and the oil industry starts in the 19th century. We've talked about this. We did this with There Will Be Blood, and then John Paul Getty goes to Saudi Arabia and discovers that there's a river of an ocean of oil under the sand, and then makes deals with the Saudis, and then that sort of creates the House of Saud, and people thought that oil at first was just something to like light your lamps with, right? And then they sort of were using whale oil. We talked about this in Moby Dick. And then eventually the Industrial Revolution kicks in, and 1901 and modernity begins, and things just ramp up, and oil becomes the blood. We see now that oil is like the blood of the earth, and that everything runs on oil. It's like that meme of the Australian driving through the desert, right? And he's got the dog in the back seat, and he's like, "Oil is king, mate." You seen that one? Well, it would be like that. It would be like, I guess right now it would be like with with the cobalt mines or something. It would be like we have elements that we know are there, and then eventually they find their way into everything that we carry around all the time, and they power our technology. That could be a thing. And so the Caesar character is the one to see that this is going to change the future, and he's going to create a new city. He has some lines that could be good, where he says, something about building not for the future and not for the temporary, and so he's the only one with this sort of prophetic vision of a new city, a kind of heaven on earth where every need is taken care of. Yeah, it's like the spice. Exactly, Mad Mink. The spice must flow. It's the same story as Dune in that sense. There's a new thing that's going to change everything. But the problem is that the movie doesn't show that, and the payoff is totally incomplete. So we go through most of the film, and we see Adam Driver with his interpersonal struggles and his sort of degenerate adulterating, and we don't see the city being built. And when it comes to the power plays of the elites, we don't care. We don't care about any of the characters. The real life characters who do this are much more fascinating than they're portrayed in the film. So I think the reason that this happened is that when you, when you have a director who is an auteur and who is completely he has no limits, no limits, no laws, right? If he has no limits and he sinks his own fortune into the thing, it can go one of two ways. It can be either Apocalypse Now or it can be this, and it's the same director. It's crazy. Someone who succeeded so spectacularly can fail so miserably with this. I don't understand what it is other than to say that as bad as Hollywood is, okay, and as bad as some of the characters that we've seen have been ousted, have been exiled, Sophoclean exile from Hollywood, there is a direct correlation between some of these tyrannical characters, some of these tyrannical producers. There's a direct correlation between that and the sort of and the nosedive with movies. And I don't know how else to really get to that other than that Hollywood is a strange industry because it's like you take the if you have the psychopathic single-minded characters who are sort of ubiquitous in their industry and you put them into an industry, right, and they become these sort of titans. So you can have them in banking or you can have them in these industrialists, and these are like once in a lifetime people. And then all of a sudden you put them in and there's a person who figures out that Hollywood is the thing they're going to do. Well, it's really interesting as a concept because it's one thing if you're like a city builder or you build railroads or you build a military or you build a nation. Like if you're Cecil Rhodes and you are conquering parts of Africa or you take over the diamond mines. Those are physical, concrete, tangible things. So if you're building buildings, then you can see the various stages of them being built. You need the various elements. You need all the materials. You need the materiality. You need the workforce. You have to get the permits or, you have to dig the foundations. And these are physical things that you can see. But with a film, what's interesting is that none of that really, at a certain point, all that goes out the window because you have all of this stuff built on an artist's vision of something that he wants to produce that has never been made. So even if you're building a building, like if you're putting up the Empire State Building, if Mr. Empire, whoever built the Empire State Building, if he's building it, we still have a model for buildings. Like with movies, we have a model for movies, but every movie is going to be is completely different and can go wrong so easily. So at the end of the day, with a movie, what are you supposed to say? You're trying to finance your movie and you're trying to sell your movie to the people that are going to finance it, and you're trying to. All you really have is a script, and that's one of the interesting things about art is that it's never been created before you create it. So it's a real kind of it's a real act that is supposed to mimic something divine, right? Which is the creation of a whole world. That's what making a movie is. So you have people building the sets. You have you've got electricity. You've got the stage. You've got the sound stage. You've got people with all the materials. You've got microphones. You've got cameras. You've got the film stock. You've got all this stuff, and then you get the actors in, which is the most dangerous part. You get the actors in, and then they are going to interpret. They're going to start interpreting your words and how they want to interpret it. And there's some sort of like movie magic made where it's either right or it's wrong. But when you're done, it's forever. It's there, and it's never gonna. That movie's never gonna change. Well, this ties into what I covered with the book High Concept about Don Simpson and Jerry Bruckheimer, which is that the 80s and making movies. I know I'm kind of on this isn't a tangent. This has a point. in the 80s, we'd gone through the 70s auteur era where we had people like Robert Evans making movies, and that was great because that was a action and equal and opposite reaction to the movie making of the 60s, which came out of the great, post-war movie making. So we have sort of conventional set pieces, we've got conventional stories, and then we're going to go into something which is more ethnic, which is more gritty, and we get into this sort of really great filmmaking in the 70s, but at some point that's got to end because it also is going to presage the excess of the 80s, and then eventually either it's going to mirror that and mimic it, or it's going to presage it, right? Well, Don Simpson and Jerry Bruckheimer came along and said that the era of the auteur was over, that they were no longer going to have directors and scriptwriters who had complete control, people who could just do this sort of impressionistic stuff, because what was happening was that most movies don't take a profit, right? And they have to, you have these characters who especially like Simpson, Simpson is he's business minded, but he also has this sort of artistic mentality where he understands how movies were made. So fast forward to today, and we've had a couple. You have Barbie Steenwine, who makes banger movies like the Miramax movies and the movies throughout the 90s they're just hits. He makes hit after hit, right? And part of that is it's shown in Tropic Thunder, right, where Tom Cruise, who's kind of a Weinstein, but he's really kind of a Joel Silver character, where he gets on the Zoom call, you remember, with the guy, and he says, "Get control of your actors, or I will shut you down." Well, that's true. That's true. Look, I was an actor. I know people in movies. I was an actor. I went to drama school, and I tried acting in New York and all this stuff. But that is absolutely true of how any production works, whether it's theater or film. That you have all of these egos, and you've got all of these artistic-minded people, and each one thinks that their vision and that their interpretation is brilliant and beautiful. But you have to have someone who comes in and tells people, you're going to do exactly this, or you're not going to do this. Now, you need also directors who can work with actors. A lot of times, and it depends on the film. You can have a director who really doesn't know how to work with actors, and that's because, like for instance, Kubrick, right? You get a Kubrick film, and his kind of interpretation is obviously shown in the films because he wants a cold, something almost otherworldly production in all of his stories that doesn't match like how human beings live, but that's shown in the film. But even the Kubrick movies were financial failures. And we know that he had creative. I did the Kubrick on stream. We know he had creative control for, let's say, ulterior reasons. You also get, directors who really know how to work with actors, and that's when you get sort of warmer productions. You get Coppola is one of these guys. I mean, he really knows how to bring out the best in an actor. We see that and he lets them have free reign. We see that in the Godfather movies. The Conversation is probably an example where it's kind of the best of both worlds. We have Gene Hackman playing a clinical NSA character who is there's not much interpretation. There's not much ad-libbing. He's just playing the role. But then we have the scene, remember, where he's talking to his friend, and the guy is trying to kind of rile him up, and then it tells him that he's been recording him the whole time when they're in his warehouse apartment. That's kind of like where those two meet. We also have directors who kind of have both of those things. That would be like Oliver Stone. Now, what's weird is that scene I mentioned in The Doors earlier is wild, because Oliver Stone and Spielberg and Coppola and John Milius and Jim Morrison were all, and Martin Scorsese, were all around UCLA Film School at the same time. Scorsese ended up at NY. I think Scorsese I think Scorsese was Oliver Stone's teacher, either at UCLA or um, at NYU Film School, one or the other. But they all these people are in the same at the same time existing with each other, right? And so Oliver Stone is kind of this director who, when you learn about his filmmaking, um, obviously has it. Everything is script based and has his vision of how a certain event would happen. Like for instance, the Doors movie. I keep talking about that, but the Doors movie, Oliver Stone took a lot of flack from the surviving members of the Doors at the time because they were like, "This isn't how he was. This isn't how Jim was at all. This is not how he was." And Oliver Stone said, "Yeah, but it doesn't matter because this is my interpretation of the events. I lived through the time, so I this is what I think, and this is the popular imagination, and I'm sort of synthesizing it." And then I know that he, in a way, if an actor is not giving what he wants on the screen, he'll almost terrorize the actor into getting an authentic response on screen. And that's in a way that works. You understand what you're doing when you're an actor. You as long it's the performance that matters, especially when it's on celluloid. So the thing with this movie is that there was too much, and I don't know anything really about the production of the movie. I'm not talking about behind the scenes. I only really care about what the end product is, right? This is why when we talk about when we discuss literature, I'll go into the life of the artist or the life of the writer, but in the end, it's irrelevant. What really matters is what we get on the page. That's the final thing. That's what's going to live forever. It's not. We hardly know anything about Shakespeare. We know like nothing about Homer. It's what's on the page or what's on the screen. And what is on the screen in this is total shit. It's just absolute trash. I can't believe that I paid for this movie. I can't believe it. I was so pissed off. I wanted to leave. I wanted to leave in the first 5 minutes of this movie. And then I wanted to leave. Every scene made me. I can't believe how was this a joke? At some point in the movie, I thought, "Oh no, he's trolling me. This is a troll. I get it. Okay." But then that doesn't work. So what happened was that I think that this sense of boomer utopia, where we have the past as prologue, so the future will be more like the past, and that may be true, but not a personal "I love New York" past. Give me a break. I'm sick of this. I'm sick of this. You'll never understand my New York. You'll never understand my Los Angeles. Like, the guy has an ad for Redux in the background. Am I the only one who noticed this in the movie? I don't know if you guys have seen it, but when I watched it, I started paying attention to the background details of this thing. And first of all, what's the deal with the old cars? Why do you have clearly what are the cars from your youth as if this is the utopia? You literally have lines in this movie where he goes, oftentimes a utopia will turn into a dystopia. No. Really? That's what every movie is. That's what a utopia is. Utopia is a no place. So a dystopia is the utopia gone wrong. Yeah, we know that. I've read, I understand what words mean. And I'm not mad on the part of like the average moviegoer, because the average moviegoer is not watching this. This movie was clearly made for people like me. It was made for people like me who like movies, who like cinema, who like literature. Dude, one of my first streams was on Ralph Waldo Emerson. I talked about American transcendentalism and on nature and the transparent eyeball. I talked all about Emerson. And there's a line, I can't even quote the movie with this. There's nothing quotable except for the club which I'll get to in a minute. Um, there's a line in this where Adam Driver says to Aubrey Plaza or somebody, he says, I'm not interested in you. I'm interested in people who understand the finer things, poetry, Ralph Waldo Emerson, transcendentalism. And I thought, this is so bad. This has got to be a joke. There's something I'm not getting here. Why he would do this to me. So I watched the entire movie, and I thought, there's going to be a linchpin at the end. I only sat through it because I thought, there's going to be a linchpin at the end where he gives us a key to the whole thing. He's the Masonic architect. He's inventing the city of the future. He has the key to the city, so he's going to give us the key to understanding what this vision is. Guess what? Nope. They build the city, and all of a sudden is there, and everybody just walks into it, and there's no reaction, and nothing changes. So then I think, is that the point? Is the point that the utopia, nothing changes in the utopia? It's just like now? People won't even know when they're in the utopia? No, because that doesn't work. That's not consistent with the movie, because the interpersonal drama of this is that Adam Driver is, he's got there's an Ophelia character, which is, I didn't get that. He can bring her back to life in his visions, but we don't understand. We don't really care about her. Ophelia leaves sodden and silk, chlorine dream, mad stifle witness, the angel man finally claimed his benevolent soul. We don't know about Ophelia in this. Who is Ophelia is, other than that she died and that he was found not guilty of it. That's all we know. But then they say maybe he didn't kill his wife. But we don't really care about what the characters did or didn't do, because they're not likable. They're not there's nothing to hold on to in this that is human. And so then I thought, maybe this is the case because these are the elites and they are so far removed from humanity that they have no more humanity left. But that's not the case, because they're still doing human things and they are human, and their decadence is, again, nothing compared to the decadence that we have now in the actual New Rome right now. Aubrey Plaza is like his new wife, but she gets cheated on with this other girl who is the daughter of Crassus. Okay, so I mean, the daughter of, is she the daughter of Cicero or Crassus? Okay, so we have Caesar, Crassus, and Cicero. So Crassus was in the first triumvirate with Pompey and Caesar. There's no like sort of mention of Pompey. I don't think there's any Pompey characters in this. Crassus was one of the richest men who ever lived. He made his fortune through buying up cheap territory in Rome and then developing it and selling it. So the analogy they're trying to make in the movie, obviously, with how John Voight appears in the movie, is that he's a kind of Trump. But that doesn't make sense to me because, and I don't really care about like John Voight. I don't care about these people, what they do in their lives, about their political, but I'm aware enough to know that John Voight is always like at the RNC, right? And it was weird because he clearly looks like a Trumpian character in this, but that was sort of the end of the interpretation. I didn't really get anything else with this because he acted more like a Biden or something in the movie. And I don't know if that's what he was going for, because Coppola, you can look, man. Okay. You can tell, I don't know whatever about the making of the movie, but I can watch this movie in a second and see that it was made over the course of 20 or 30 years, because there are scenes in this where the damn characters, it literally looks like Coppola went to New York and he goes, "Oh, it's a nice day outside. Hey, he calls up, Aubrey Plaza and Shia LaBeouf and goes, "Hey, you guys want to film a scene today? I think it would be perfect." And then they meet in a park and then they film 5 minutes of a scene, and they don't even have to clear the roads or anything, and then they get that done. And then the script makes no sense with the later script. So it's like the America line. I think the line about America and New Rome is so disparate because it was a fault in the script. I don't even think it was purposeful. You know what move? Listen, this is hot take here. You know, this is gonna astound you. Get ready for this take. The movie Challengers is better than this movie. Okay, and that movie is about a bunch of degenerate, adulterating, disgusting, unlikable Zoomers playing tennis with Zendaya. That movie is actually better than this movie. Can you believe that? I only watched that movie this weekend because I heard Nick Mullen talking about it, so I watched it. And then I saw that one of the dudes went to my drama school. So I watched it. And yes, it's exactly what I thought it was in the trailer. It's about a bunch of... But that movie, here's why that movie's better. That movie had the very key, the very linchpin in the end of it, in the last scene, that this movie did not have. Also, it's got a great score. It's got a great soundtrack by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. I was watching the movie and I was thinking, like, who did this movie? Who did the soundtrack? It sounds like when they used to get LCD Sound System, which I never really. I should have liked LCD Sound System. Like, that's one of the bands that Sound of Silver. Like, I should have liked that band of all. I like Electra. I should have liked them, but I never did. But he was doing like a bunch of movies. Like, I remember watching some Ben Stiller movie years ago only because LCD Sound System did the soundtrack, and it was disappointing. So I was watching, I was thinking, did he actually do this? And then it was actually good. No, it was good because it was Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, and they I mean, look, I like Nine Inch Nails. I mean, you know, dude, I love Trent Reznor, how he goes. He comes out at the festival and he goes, "You guys having a good time? Oh, you guys having a good time? Yeah, you having a good time? Well, we're here to have a bad time." And then they bang into Pretty Hate Machine or whatever. Like that's cool to me. And you know, we covered The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. I like this movie had like a much more of a pulsating score. I mean, it really does make the difference. Well, this movie had nothing, man. It was like, look, man, I know I'm sorry I'm yelling. I'm like yelling at you guys. Do you even understand? So, take Apocalypse Now, which is kind of an unfair comparison, you know, when you take movies because it's so good. So, Coppola got his various family members to do parts of, you know, he like had a built-in in-house studio, right? He's got all the Coppolas. His dad does the score for Apocalypse Now, and he managed his old father manages to throw away all traditional composition, throw away all the traditional soundscapes of a movie, and make something that is completely synthetic. It's synthesizers and like theremins. And it's in total opposition to the way the film works, but it works because our minds can't decide where we are. It's like when Lance says, Disneyland, it's here. It really is here. You know, Charles Miller, Manson, man, Far Out, all that. But this movie didn't have that. It lacked all of the vigor of a great filmmaker. This was just simply an indulgent. It was just a filmmaker indulging himself and throwing away his fortune or something. Look, man. Say what you will about Francis. I don't know whatever about Francis Ford Coppola, but I like Sofia Coppola's movies. You know, I think they're good movies. I was just talking to Maddie this weekend about how Marie Antoinette is a great movie. I covered Lost in Translation. I mean, she's kind of hit or miss. She's done a couple of. They're not great. I like how she's also married to Thomas Mars from from the band Phoenix. That's cool. They have a daughter. I think that's cool. That has nothing to do with the artwork, but I'm just saying, Coppola uses his family. Jason Schwartzman is in this movie, who, by the way, is terrible. Jason Schwartzman was awesome in Rushmore because he's Max Fisher, and because the movie is a tour de force of a young actor playing a character that that you can relate to. It's like a prep school movie, and well, I covered Rushmore, and it's also, I think it's probably Bill Murray's best movie besides Lost in Translation. I'm not like, I'm not fanboying for Bill Murray or whatever. I don't care about all the lore. I think that he's just great in Rushmore, because he's broke. He's a broken character, and we see that and you believe it. I mean, it really is good. But Rushmore even has an Apocalypse Now scene in it. So Jason Schwartzman is in this movie. He's got one line. He's in the background, and he's like, yeah, give him the plans or something. And it's so bad. He screwed up his one line because the script is terrible. You know who's not in this movie? The best Coppola of all, Nicholas Coppola. Right? Nicholas Coppola. Nick Cage, of course, has nothing to do with the movie. Okay. The best part of the movie. The best part of the movie is actually Shia LaBeouf. Now Shia LaBeouf is, first of all, I've talked about this before. I don't know if this is even a hot take anymore. Shia LaBeouf is one of the great actors working today. And the fact that everyone hates him it only adds for me to why he's a great actor. I think that what really counts when you watch a movie is whether you believe the character, whether you can see that they exist in the world of the movie. The movie movies have to exist like this. They're different from books because books are, we work our way into the life of the book. And the book, if it's a great work, if it's in the canon of literature, if it's something that lives forever, if it's a great work of literature, is something that will transcend space and time and will always be true. It becomes archetypal. It becomes something that we see ourselves in, and that we see that this is a statement about the world. It becomes like what Coleridge said about verse. It's the best words in the best order. But the book will leave it up to our imagination and our interpretation of the way things look. They're written to us, or they're described to us, or we get imagery, but we see them in a personal way. Books are personal. When a book comes down to one person sitting alone in a space looking at symbols on a page. That's something that's something God gives to us. That's an ability that human beings have to do that's remarkable. A movie is different because we have that as the basis for a movie, but it's an interpretation that is given to us, and we have no choice but to accept what we see on the screen. And it's flat. It's not. It's completely two-dimensional. We see it there, and that's it. So when you see a great actor, acting is such a silly thing, because it's like what Richard Burton said about acting. Like, I love this quote that he said, because Richard Burton said that all of his relatives were slate farmers, slate miners in Wales. Like, they all got up and were covered in soot every day, and they worked their ass off for their family, and they put food on the table, and they have something tangible as a result. They have money as a result, and they're digging slate out, and it's a thing you hold and you put it on houses, and it's a thing that covers your head, and it matters. Well, he couldn't believe that people would pay him for one film more than any of all of his ancestors put together ever made. Richard Burton was the one who bought the Hope Diamond for Elizabeth Taylor. He was a jet setter. And he said, I can't believe that people pay me to put on makeup and play dress up for movies. It's essentially, it's a feminine job, but it's art. So Shia LaBeouf reminds me of that when I watch films. I don't always like Shia LaBeouf movies, but even when he's in like Transformers or something, which I've seen, it's like I believe that character. I believe him. I don't. I look at him and I don't see him reading lines behind his eyeballs. I see him like really. There is such a thing as taking a risk with a film. I mean, we talk about that like with actors and how that sounds like wanker. It's like, oh, it's stunning and brave for an actor. I that was a brave choice you made. Actors love saying that kind of thing. But with Shia LaBeouf, I mean, he kind of shows in this movie like that can be true. Okay, so but it has to have some sort of purpose. So I think that if anybody sees screenshots of the movie or you watch the movie, the thing is that Shia LaBeouf plays a fair portion of the movie in drag. He's he's wearing he's wearing a woman's robe and he's got like shaved eyebrows and he's got curls, he's wearing a wig. But you see the reason why I like that he did this is because that's one of the only things in the movie that shows what the movie should be trying to say, which is the decadence of Rome. I mean, look, I covered in the 12 Caesars when Suetonius talks about Nero's wedding. Okay, so Nero, if you remember from the stream or if you've read the book, one of the things Nero did, which continued I mean, he's the beast 666. The reason that he shocked normal people was because one of the things he did was he required everyone to walk to the Tiber to watch his wedding get consummated, and he married I think one of his slaves, and he was the bride, and he forced them to watch the consummation on a floating barge down the Tiber. So what's his name, Claudius Pulcher, that Shia LaBeouf is playing, was a real Roman who caused it's in here, who caused a scandal during Caesar's era by sneaking into the temple of the Vestal Virgins and witnessing their ritual by being dressed as one of the devotees. So this is like, so Shia LaBeouf is doing that in the movie. It's not a ritual. It's not a humiliation ritual. It's not, it's not him doing whatever. This is actually what is required of a character to show the depravity and the decadence of Rome, and he actually does that. He's also got shaved eyebrows clearly in the movie because Mia Goth, his wife, has shaved eyebrows, and he thought that looks. If I did that, that would look absolutely insane. So he did that, and he's also. Say what you will about Adam Driver. I've covered. I put Adam Driver on the cover of that stream I did on Byron. I think it was the Byron stream because Adam Driver kind of looks to me. His Kylo Ren character is a Byronic character. He's dark. He's the dark Byronic hero in a lot of his roles, and so I think that is what he's trying to do in this. I mean, he's clearly cast in this because he's the melancholy Dane. He even does the to be or not to be soliloquy in the movie, which, by the way, doesn't really have a point in this. It doesn't really fit. This was just Coppola wanting to fit in mixed metaphors between Caesar and Shakespeare and Imperial Rome and now. And it didn't work. It was incongruous. It was non-linear in a way that did not fit. It wasn't earned in the movie. But Adam Driver and Shia LaBeouf have something in this film that I like, which is that when you watch them, they are watchable. Look, man, I'm not trying to like say actors are bigger people than normal human beings. They are normal human beings. They are human beings, and they find their way into the entertainment industry or whatever. But if you're going to be, what's separate? There's a few things that separate who we consider great actors from the run-of-the-mill person in a movie. And you take, for example, the difference between somebody like Benicio del Toro in the movie Reptile or The Hunted versus Chris Hemsworth in any movie. And the difference is that Benicio del Toro is watchable, whether you like him or not. When you watch Benicio del Toro, remember his first role? It was in The Living Daylights, right? We're gonna give you a nice honeymoon. I mean, it's so weird. It's so weird, but it's not put on. It fits the character. Like his thing in Reptile. Remember I covered Reptile a year ago. It's a forgotten movie now, but with the Netflix movie, right, where he plays a detective. Take him versus Justin Timberlake. Justin Timberlake, great, he's a great entertainer. He's a Hollywood person. He can sing and dance and act and all this stuff and whatever. But you watch him in this film, and his mood, his tone, his appearance never changes in the movie. He is miserable to look at. He's miserable to watch, and you figure that he's guilty from the very beginning. Benicio del Toro is dynamic. You watch him, and he's going through the scene. He's just gone through the murder scene, and the other detective says, "What do you think about it? What do you think happened here? What's your theory?" And he says, "I like this kitchen." I mean, it's just very like in The Haunted when Tommy Lee Jones walks in and he says, "If you cross this line," right? He's just funny. Yeah, Christopher. He's visceral. He's just fucking cool to look at. He's cool to watch. Shia LaBeouf is the same in this movie. He's actually the same in really any movie. I think people forget how good he is in movies. I mean, have you seen Fury? Have you seen Fury? Have you seen Fury with Brad Pitt? You forget that Shia LaBeouf is in that movie. He has like a kind of weird mustache. He's one of the tank crew. He's the sergeant. He's the right-hand man. But what does he say in the movie? He's got a great scene. There's a great scene in that movie, and that movie's it's not a great movie, but it is cool. It's a cool movie. It's World War II. But he's in there's a scene where they're in the tank. It's him and John Bernthal and Brad Pitt and Logan Lerman or whatever, and the other guy, the guy who's in Observe and Report. And they're in the tank, and it's kind of non logical because the tank almost looks bigger than it is on the inside. But they're sitting in there, and Shia LaBeouf says, "There's a Bible verse." He says, "There's a Bible verse that I remember, and the Lord asked, 'Whom shall I send?' And one cried out, 'Send me, Lord.'" And he is that character. You believe him. He doesn't. It's not that he cries, because he doesn't cry. You can actually tell that the character is overwhelmed with the absolute truth of the verse, but the character pulls himself back. That's the difference. Do you understand? That's the difference. That's the difference between a great actor and a pretty good actor, or a great actor who will live forever on the screen. That's right, Real John Connor. Here I am. Send me. That's the difference between a real actor in the classical sense and somebody who is good in movies. The person who's good in movies will shed a tear. They will cry. They will. But the excellent actor, the true actor, will have the tears behind his eyes. It will be in the voice. It will be embodied in what he is, but he doesn't shed a tear. Do you understand that? Because this is my problem with Leo. I like Leo in movies. I think he's great. I think he's, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I mean, he's phenomenal. I think he's really phenomenal in that. And it's Mad Mink. It's not necessarily method act. I mean, method acting is people, and I understand why you say that. Method acting is simply a term that people use, and actors use this as well, for when a person when they seem like they embody the character. But that's not what method acting is. Method acting is mining your own life experience and your own pain in order to bring forth emotions that are set forth in the script, which is a kind of Stanislavski method is a kind of magical ritual in a way, because it becomes a kind of possession, but that's not necessary. That can yeah, it's neo shamanic German expressionism. That can all be. I mean, like Laurence Olivier said, try acting, dear boy. Daniel Day-Lewis. By the way, Daniel Day-Lewis is not a method actor. Do you know that? Daniel Day-Lewis is not a method actor. Every interview you watch with Daniel Day-Lewis, they will bring this up. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable that they'll bring this up. Is that what you do? They'll say, you never break character on the set. People have to call you Lincoln. Daniel Day-Lewis will always answer in a way that doesn't correct the person, but he'll always give some sort of other explanation. But that's not method acting. I know Daniel Day-Lewis isn't a method actor because my teacher at Bristol Vic, John Hartock, taught Daniel Day-Lewis. Rudy Shelley, who was the head of acting, he passed away before I got there, was the guy that Daniel Day-Lewis went to when he won his first Oscar, My Left Foot, and he learned to be in a wheelchair, and he lived at the school for 3 months because Rudy Shelley taught him. That doesn't mean he was going around everywhere in a wheelchair. It means he was doing that to try and understand what it was like to be in a wheelchair. He filmed Lincoln here. One of my godfather's brother was an extra in the film. He's got a speaking part in the movie Lincoln. All the local actors here were in Lincoln. Daniel Day-Lewis was at restaurants downtown. He was Daniel Day-Lewis. He lived in an apartment building. He wasn't walking around as Lincoln. That's ridiculous. That's not true. He's just an actor. And so Shia LaBeouf kind of sort of says the same thing. What acting is really is what the great actors do is they learn to understand the words in the script. Now Brando famously did not memorize scripts. He said he's like Robert Downey Jr. in Tropic Thunder. He says, "I don't read the script. Script reads me." But Coppola let him get away with that, and that works in Apocalypse Now. I mean, Brando is a method actor. He was a Stanislavski method actor, so he really does that. But that's not what Shia LaBeouf or some of these characters do. I think that Shakespeare again is the there's a reason why drama schools, and why wouldn't you do an audition? You always have to do a classical piece, and it's usually Shakespeare. That's probably why Coppola included Shakespeare in this, because Shakespeare has all of his stage directions and everything you need to understand a character within the script. There's no interpolation like Arthur Miller does at the beginning of The Crucible or Death of a Salesman has like pages of stage directions and setup. The same with like Raising the Sun does that. There's like a whole chapter about describing the backstory for the characters. There's a reason we don't get that in Shakespeare, because everything you need for the interpretation of the character and their mindset is there. It's what Harold Bloom calls the invention of the human. Everything necessary for understanding that character or that archetype is there on the page. So I think that the problem with this film, Megalopolis, is that the script didn't have that. So you can tell that with Shia LaBeouf that he is, Christopher says he's mining he's mining parts of his life to understand that. I mean, that is automatic with an actor. Of course, you're going to draw from your own experience because we're humans, but it's something that is almost surface level with the movie. Speaking of surface level, let me get into this. I'll just get into this. The way I'll sort of try to encapsulate my interpretation of this movie is that the movie has no interpretive level. I saw this film as a kind of like Andy Warhol Brillo box. Have you guys ever seen Andy Warhol art in person? If you've ever seen any of the Brillo boxes, I think that obviously modern art is we all know about modern art. And I think that's kind of that's actually one of the things that's important for understanding Andy Warhol. I don't think that it's not supposed to be a transcendent beauty or something that reminds us of truth, beauty, and goodness. What it is we look at the flourishing colors on a piece of cardboard, and our eyes are drawn to the color, and we see a word, and that draws us in our mind into something where we go, okay, that there's something beautiful about this, and it's a trick. It's a trick to show that beauty in the modern era, and especially in the postmodern era, has been transposed into advertising. So it's something that is monetizable, something that is numerical, something that has a physical value. And that's part of the reason that the art market is so overblown, because works of art in terms of their appreciation are priceless. But to own the work is something that obviously has a monetary value. But the monetary value is as open to interpretation in the mind of the purchaser and the seller as the appreciation of the work is. The two get conflated. Hey, Jacob, thank you for membership right there. Appreciate it. Thanks for welcome to membership. So, thank you, Jacob. I think that that's a kind of trick that Warhol is playing. I don't think that I say what you will about Warhol, and all his stuff. I think that is one of the things that he's pointing to as a critique. And obviously, that itself becomes a surface level critique. Everyone knows that about pop art. It's pop art, just like you're buying a product. But the irony is that it becomes so expensive to own one. But the paradox really is that art is not what's on the surface. It's the impressionistic depth of what we see in it that engenders our understanding of life and why we're here. I've thought all art is about two things. It's about our relationship with God and our relationship with each other. It's about why are we here and what are we supposed to do while we're here. That's what all art is. That even the nihilistic art and even the dark satanic modern art that you see is that. Even the art that says I'm going to tape a banana to a wall is actually showing those things, because it's showing the opposite. So it's still relative to that. It's still in the same universe. But with the Brillo box, what you get is you're looking at a piece of art on the surface, but it's a box, and there's nothing in the box. It's empty. Do you get it? It's emptiness. And so with this film, I think it sort of exists in the same world as that unintentionally, because when you have all symbolism, all interpretation, all impressionistic value, everything is on the surface, there's nothing left to interpret, and there's nothing behind the veil. There's nothing else. The characters are just actors acting in an avant-garde student piece. It's absolute trash. There are continuous. Here's my example of this. There are continuous scenes in the movie of characters walking on scaffolding. Now, why? What are you doing? Why are you on scaffolding? Well, this is the difference between, like, I don't know, Commedia dell'arte or some sort of avant-garde 20th century theater, or Antonin Artaud, or Theater of Blood, Theater of Cruelty, where the avant-garde aspect of the film is the breakdown of barriers between the conscious and the subconscious mind, or the surrealistic elements are such that we bring our dreams into the forefront, so life seems dreamlike. We're in some sort of dream interpretation. I mean, look at Spellbound by Alfred Hitchcock with the Salvador Dali
uh, dream sequence, which is brilliant because it shows that dreams are not like hazy, wavy things where we have strange music. It's just the distorted version of our mind trying to interpret our lives. I don't know. I still, I don't think we understand what dreams are. Like Father Deacon said, dreams are something where we enter the noetic realm and we see visions of without time, some sort of outside of time in some way. But uh, if you've seen the play, there's a play called Marat Sade where this is sort of the point of postmodern theater, where it's in an Artodian sense, where like the ultimate form of theater is an audience in an insane asylum, where the breakdown between the audience and the actors becomes it becomes perforated, like where the audience doesn't know if they are the performance. This is actually what Norm Macdonald said about something brilliant about David Letterman. He said what people didn't understand about Letterman was that the guests were the joke, right? So when the celebrities come out, the average person watches the night show in the 90s or whatever and sees, Heather Locklear or somebody come out and sell their movie. But Norm said that Letterman didn't care about that. The joke was the guest. They are the joke and the punchline, which is which is a really avant-garde way of looking at the late night show as a form of theater. The movie Amadeus kind of does this because we're taken into the insane asylum. Mediocrity. That's the point of the scene. Arsa says right there, so thanks for the $10 super chat. Says, are we going to get that Bazed book of poems in time for Christmas gift giving? Hey, that would be great. I really don't want to self-publish this book. And I think you guys would, I don't know about like or not like. Maybe you don't like, but I think that especially even if you don't, if your idea of like buying a book of poetry sounds completely lame to you, that doesn't really matter. But I think that you would probably find the book pretty visceral. I think so. I hope to get it published. I need some way of getting published. And I'm really trying. Speaking of that, I am doing somebody's interviewing me this week for. This is crazy. So here's a little sideline. So you ready for a little story? You want a little story? Okay. When I was 4 years old, I watched the movie Amadeus. I told you this before, but when I was 4 years old, I saw the movie Amadeus it was 1984, and I saw it in a hotel room in Williamsburg, Virginia. I was staying with my parents, and the TV had a dial on it, and I turned it on, and I guess it was HBO, and it was late. It was dark. Everyone had gone to sleep, and I turned on the TV, and the movie Amadeus came on. I didn't know what it was, and I was watching it, and I became obsessed with Mozart, and I asked my mom if I could take piano lessons. So I started taking piano lessons, and I learned Suzuki method. I learned to play by ear, and I didn't learn how to read music. And I would go to the library at school and find books on Mozart, and I found and I got I got sheet music, blank score, and I would write fake symphonies on it, because I was trying to mimic what Mozart had done and written his first symphony when he was little. And I thought I just did this stuff. I would quiz my parents on what's Mozart's real name and a full name, and like I liked there was a drawing of him sitting in the lap of Marie Antoinette, and I always thought Marie Antoinette was super hot, and I thought that was really cool. so I did that. Well, I would play, and I learned to play, and my first recital I was 6, and I played a minuet by Mozart. Well, at the recital, I played first because I was the youngest at the recital. This was at my prep school. So I played first, and the guy who always played last was this other student there, and he was much older. He was 9 years older than me, but he seemed much older, and he also played Mozart. And we went through a series of recitals, and he always played last. And dude, I looked up to this guy like he was. I thought he was larger than life. I thought this guy was so cool. I never heard anyone play music so beautifully. He sat down at the piano and he played to me. It was like in my dreams of listening to Mozart, of watching the real thing in real life. He played so beautifully. He was so cool to me. This guy was just this big. I just looked up to him. And I've thought about that for years, right? And whatever happened to him, because I remembered that he had gone off to West Point. Well, fast forward all these years later, years and years later, and I got an email from him. And he is now he was one he was one of the two authors of the U.S. national military policy in the late 2010s, and he is a senior strategist with special operations. I mean, he's big in the military, and he has a PhD in history, and I always knew he would do something like that because he was a genius. I would see him on Battle of the Brains on TV. I think he was the valedictorian of the school. I mean, this guy was great. He played music. It reminds me of Kurtz a little bit. Well, anyway, he reached out to me on an email because he's writing a book about theater. And so he wrote me an email. So he's interviewing me for his book on Friday. So that'll be cool. So maybe I'll have something to say that he can put in the book. That's cool. And I'm also working on another project that I can't say what it is yet, but that's going to be published sometime in the future. That's a sort of way into publishing. And I can't wait to share it with you guys because it's going to be cool. But I would like to get that book published. Anyway, moving on. So yes, Maddie says, I'm director Francis Ford Coppola. All right, so to kind of encapsulate all this, what happened is with this movie is that obviously the financing dropped out of the movie because as bad as you think Hollywood is, they still have people who go, look, man, I know we put $300 million of money into the Marvel movies. And we don't give anything for these other movies, and we haven't made anything great in a long time. But we're not giving a fucking dime to this movie. This has got to stop. So at some point, I guess give them credit. So Coppola look, they did the same thing with Apocalypse Now, but that was because Apocalypse Now had a typhoon in the middle of it, and then they're filming the helicopter scene, and they used Filipino Army helicopters that turn around and fly away to fight a battle in the middle of it and then come back. The set's destroyed. Dennis Hopper's all hopped up. Lance the Surfer's on Crystal or whatever. Marlon Brando is getting paid $1 million a day. Shows up a week late. They still have to pay him. Hadn't read the script. It's all that sort of lore about Apocalypse Now. So they didn't want to finance it. Plus, he fired Harvey Keitel well into shooting. He'd shot his scenes as Willard. And they recast it with Martin Sheen, who has a heart attack on set. I know all the lore and all that stuff. But this is not that. I did see today, I saw a headline, and this wasn't because I was looking for it, about Coppola was going to make his movie, but dropped it after the Big Nine. Okay, well, you can tell. And he should have dropped it. Because this movie has nothing to do with post Big Nine, postmodernism, or revelation of the method, or making the neo-Gnostic, inverted Garden of Eden as the utopia. It has all that on the surface, We already get that. There's no interpretation left, man. This is just a guy who threw together a script that had no one to edit it and had no producer telling him, get your actors to get this production together or we're shutting you down. You have to have that. If you have anything to do with art, if you're an artist in any way, you have to have deadlines. You have to. People work best against a deadline. A lot of people do. You have to have people that will read your work without you there. This is how a creative writing class should go. You write a poem or you write a chapter of a book, and you give it to a group of people, and you sit there while they read it aloud and they criticize it, and you aren't allowed to say anything. Because the minute that you go, what I meant was, it doesn't matter. None of that matters. What you meant has to be in the words on the page. What he means in the film has to be in the film. Yes, there's no excuse for this. There's no excuse for taking me as a fool for watching your movie. I'm not a fucking fool, man. I know what Hamlet is. Right? To be or not to be. That is the question. Whether it is noble to the mind to suffer the things and errors of outrageous fortune. Ecstasy, my pulse is yours to temperately keep time and makes helpful music. It is not madness I have uttered. Bring me to the test, and I, the matter, will reword that which madness we gamble from. Mother, for love of grace, lay not that flattering unction to your soul that not your trespass but my madness speaks. It will but skin and film the ulcerous place, whilst rank corruption, mining all within, infects unseen. Forgive me this my virtue, for in the fatness of these pursy times, virtue itself of vice must pardon, beg, yea, curb and woo for leave to do him good. I know Hamlet. Yeah, Christopher. The Arnold Schwarzenegger Hamlet in Last Action Hero, that one scene is better than this entire film. That's an example of a movie it's not great, it's not tight, but it has scenes in it which are amazing. Right? To be or not to be. There's something rotten in the state of Denmark, and Hamlet's taking out the trash. Not to be. That is good. That's actually good. That's funny, and it's clever. This was Adam Driver, who, by the way, Adam Driver, what do they say in the Biden says now? And by the way, and guess what? And by the way, right? Adam Driver does an excellent Hamlet soliloquy in this. It's actually very good. I really did like the soliloquy. The problem was that what he's trying to convey to the audience, which is that he's the melancholy Dane. The melancholy Dane is bombarded by the demonic spirit that is. Remember my Hamlet? I did a Hamlet analysis, right? Harold Bloom calls Hamlet poem unlimited. The Hamlet monologue. Hamlet is a character who is blitzed by a demonic spirit pretending to be his father, pushing him towards murder. And he is infected with pride, so much so that the play within the play, the mousetrap, becomes, which has the character Hecate in it, the triple goddess Hecate, becomes a simulacra for the rest of the play until finally it results in annihilation, right, of his family and of himself. Good night, sweet prince. But Hamlet that's Hamlet, and this guy is no Hamlet. I knew Hamlet. I went to school with Hamlet. You, sir, are no Hamlet. No, Adam Driver is actually good, and he could do this, but he is the bottom drops out when you realize, when you look at it, and the characters are walking on scaffolding looking at a model of the city, and you can tell that Coppola he couldn't possibly be thinking, okay, so the audience is going to think here that the city, which is a model, is actually just the playground for the elites. It's like King Lear says, we are but playthings to the gods. They kill us for their sport, right? That these characters, they hover over the rest of humanity as if they're walking on Olympus. And the scaffolding represents them dominating over the city. But the problem is, you can only have that if it's the symbolic level of what's happening on the literal level. That's the subtext. That's the reading between the lines. That's the figurative meaning. That's the figurative interpretation. That's the archetypal. We have to have something literal where the characters are doing that. And the literal is what people do now. That's right now. That's what characters do now. That's like when you have Carl Schwab and Gil Bates shutting down cities to drink Burger King water or whatever, right? And telling everybody, do this. Don't believe your lying eyes. That's that. This is just, let's have scaffolding and we'll have Dustin Hoffman for no reason. There's no reason for him in the movie. Dustin Hoffman and what's his name, Gustavo Fring, who's playing Cicero in the film. And so there's an Ayn Rand, I call her Ayn Rand. There's an Ayn Rand dynamic between steel and hard industry versus the industry of the future. We already get all that. We already get all that. We get that there are elements that we don't understand yet, or they take too much to mine versus or the conflict between green energy and steel. We already get all that stuff. That's already a conflict that we have now, and we don't need the interpretive dialectic between how those things are going to play out in the future, unless we see that the future is going to take a toll on people, resulting in Depop or whatever. You have to have that. That's the thing. But the problem is when you have this all about the elites, who we don't even see really as elites in the movie, because we don't even get that there are other characters, but there are normal people in this. They only show up at the end when we have a fake flag and a mostly peaceful protest that occurs at the end of the movie. The problem is that we've already had that in real life. We've already had that, and we know that it's much worse than they show in the movie. So I don't know what else to say about this. In this Cicero book on page 31, this is by Anthony Everett. It says that society is matching the pyramid of rights and oligarchs and obligations with, like, the pyramid is mirrored in how, in the pyramid people, the elite system is mirrored in how they put this down in society. So there are levels of hierarchy. This says citizenship was a binding contract in Rome. This is in Rome. And for lack of other administrative instruments, it was an essential means of holding the empire together. A family's client list survived from one generation to the next. Durable bonds could, of course, also be established between equals. Friendly alliance meant more than personal affection and referred to formal networks between superiors and inferiors. Yeah, society was a pyramid of matching rights and obligations. The basic principle was summed up in the religious formula. What's this? Do or dare. I give so that you give. A wealthy and powerful man acted as a patron for many hundreds or even thousands of clients. He guaranteed to look after their interests. He welcomed them to his home and occasionally gave them meals and provided very needy followers with food handouts. He was a source of advice and of business and political contracts. If a client got into trouble with the law, his patron would offer his support. In return, a client, if he lived in Rome, would regularly pay a morning call and accompany his patron as he went about his business in the town. He could be recruited as a bodyguard or even a soldier in the army. Neither party could go to law against the other. He says it was during these years that Cicero's ambition to become a famous advocate crystallized. He found he had a gift for writing and public speaking. He was swept along by the almost unbearable excitement of the trials in the forum and the glamour of the lawyer's job, very much like that of a leading actor. That is what Cicero is supposed to be in the movie, but he doesn't have a story or a script that gives us that. We only have exposition that tells us that. It says, The attitude Cicero acquired as a serious-minded, bookish boy lasted him all his life. He always loathed and feared physical aggression. He recalled, a little priggishly, the time which others spend in advancing their own personal affairs, taking holidays and attending games, indulging in pleasures of various kinds, or even enjoying mental relaxation and bodily recreation. The time they spend on protracted parties and gambling and playing ball proves in my case to have been taken up with returning over and over again to literary pursuits. Well, that's the opposite of what Cicero is in the movie. because Caesar, who is Adam Driver, falls in love with Cicero's daughter, but Cicero goes to these parties, and also, and the thing about the physical interaction, he says at one point, if you say that again, I'll smash your face. He says that to Caesar in the movie. That's the opposite of what we know about Cicero. Right. The whole thing with him being able to stop time, this is so bad. This is Adam Driver has these soliloquies. The movie also, by the way, is written in a style that is clearly supposed to be iambic pentameter at times, like as if it's a Shakespearean production, and it is so bad. The movie begins with Morpheus giving us a voiceover. Remember, Lawrence Fishburne was Larry Fishburne in Apocalypse Now. He got his start through a Coppola movie. And he's playing Morpheus in a kind of AI 3D world where he's doing voiceovers of proclamations in Rome. But the problem is that they're not proclamations that are figuratively etched in stone as if they're guiding the new Neo-Roman people. Instead, they're literally shots in the film of marble on a wall with the words that he's reading from the voiceover etched in the wall. And all that happens when you read it is you go, first of all, there are too many words. If I'm seeing this etched in marble on a wall, somebody had to chisel the words in. There are too many words here. The sentences aren't even structured tightly. It doesn't make any sense. Why are you stopping time? Adam Driver's soliloquies are all the point of them is he gets to the point where he says the point of what we should be doing is asking questions. It's the question that matters. No, it's not. The questions you're asking are questions that the normal dum-dum asks every day. How do I make my life better? What will the city be like? Yeah. Like you get up to go to your bricklaying job and you got to ride the subway every morning. You're asking yourself that. The actual Megalopolis sucks. It's full of poison. It's a complete it's a pandemonium, right? That's why everybody wants to get out of the cities. I mean, hello. What can I do? How do I make more money? Yeah, who doesn't ask themselves that? The point is not also the point is not the question. The question should be asked through how the film presents the question as a set of set pieces and scenes, not a guy telling us what questions to ask. You know, I don't know, man. It's like when you were a student and you had to you learned how to write an essay. You probably had a teacher who told you ask questions. Questions are important. They're valuable. No, they're not important in an essay. That's the wrong thing you do. You're there to answer questions, and you present questions as a statement, as a series of declarative statements. Your thesis statement is not a question. Your thesis statement is your opinion and the reasons why it is such about a question. The question is the topic. Does that make sense? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Maddie brings up what we covered in True Detective Night Country, which is this question asking from Jodie Foster, right? You're asking all the wrong questions, Dr. Lecter. No, you're the one trying to solve the crime. Ask yourself the questions and figure it out, man. I don't get the stopping time thing. I mean, look, man. Um, yeah, human beings and artists have always tried to make sense of time. What is it? We get that, man. Yeah. It's weird that it's weird that, I was 24 like 2 seconds ago, but it was 20 years ago. I don't I saw a thing with the top trance songs from 25 years ago, and it had Fragma Tokame and ATB and Paul Van Dyke's Send Me an Angel. I mean, like those songs live in my consciousness like they just happened. But it was 25 years ago. I get it. But that's because the bigger issue is the fact that we're all unique. We're all made in God's image. We're all unique. He knows every hair on our head. What do we do while we have the time that we have? Right? We know it. We're all going to go. Everyone who ever lived is gone. We're going to go. We know that. And it could be any time. It could be right this second. It could be this second. It could be that's the concern. What are we supposed to do while we're here, right? Not what is time and how can we go into the Matthew McConaughey tesseract and make time happen in the past and the future all at once. That's not for us. We're not doing that. It's not going to happen. So, building the city of the future where there is no time is not a city on earth. And we build castles in the sky, with the new element, okay? But I don't care. I don't care about that. So, I don't know what else to say about this, man. Hey, you guys, let's can you hit me up with some super chats here? You can super chat me here. You can thank you for Jason for dropping those links right there. You can click that link right there. You can support me on the usual ones: PayPal, Venmo, Cash App. You can hit me up with a super chat. You can ask me questions about the film or about literature. You can write me an email if you want. If you're out there, especially if you're out there and you're a publisher, if you know anybody in the publishing industry, if you can help me get my book published, if you want to ask me a question, if you want to whatever, hit me up at Mad Maximalism with 2 X's, MADMAXXIMALISM, Mad Maximalism with 2 X's at gmail.com. You can hit me up there. You can hit me up if you just want to say anything. You can also leave a comment after this. You can put a comment right here in the chat. You can share the stream. You can share my streams or share my stream with somebody you want to get me on with as a guest. That would be great. You guys, help me out here. Help me out with some support. I really appreciate it. We've got a couple super chats here, and let me read something. Let's see. We got hey, thank you, Adam, for the book donation. Thanks for that $5 on PayPal. Really appreciate you. Thank you so much. Hey, shouts out to Jason, man. You are the best. Thank you for that $10 on PayPal. Always appreciate you, Jason. You are a soldier. You can also hit me up with super chats on here, whatever you guys want. I don't know what else to say about Coppola and this movie. I mean, yeah, I think I've said everything there is to say. I watched this so you guys don't have to. And usually I think that you should go see movies, of course, and read books, mainly read books. We are a literary channel. I like doing movies because movies are they have to be written. They have to be written with a script. And also this is the dominating medium of the day still. So, and also it's the evolution of theater. But I was really looking forward to what I thought was going to be a kind of new cinema, because there's got to be something new, and it's not going to be 3D. I know that, AI is going to have a lot to do with stuff, but we've already seen where we're in the opening stages of that, and we've seen where that's gone wrong with something like Napoleon, which I think is probably the case with the Ridley Scott Napoleon movie. But Moldy says, got to get BLA on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire or at least Cash Cab. Dude, I would dominate on Jeopardy. I know that. My autistic trivia is off the chain. I know that. Enfant Terrible says, watch Smile 2 and the creepy clown movie the other day. Can't wait for Nosferatu. I can't wait for Nosferatu also. I'm really looking forward to that. Because if you've seen Shadow of the Vampire, which is an underrated and underseen movie. I don't know if you guys even heard of Shadow of the Vampire. That one's a great movie. It's got Willem Dafoe in it. Your easy days are over, Ahmed. It's got him. Kenneth Rexroth. You want me to cover some Kenneth Rexroth poetry from my from the annals of beat literature? Probably not. You probably don't want me to cover that. But I know Kenneth Rexroth literature. He was there when Jack Kerouac was handing out Tokay wine at the first reading of Howl by Ginsberg there in San Francisco at the time. Hey, whoa, that's the good one right there. Shouts out to Sabrina. Let me see this one. Hold on. Let me pull this one up. Shouts out to Sabrina right there. I think that's Sabrina. Yeah, shouts out to Sabrina. She says, let's see. Hey, Bazed, I know I had asked you to sponsor a stream. I'm thinking of Lathe of Heaven by Ursula Le Guin. Thoughts? I don't know that one. Also, The Mission with De Niro. Thanks for the enthralling stream. Yeah, good call with The Mission. The Mission is a good film with Jeremy Irons, who also trained at my drama school. I met him at Cameron. I met him at the 50th anniversary of the school. Was it 50th anniversary? It wasn't 50th anniversary of the school. It was 50th. Maybe it was 25th anniversary of Les Mis. I don't remember. Cameron McIntosh is the one who did Les Mis, and Cameron McIntosh either went to Bristol Vic or had something to do with it. But anyway, he came back and we had to do this whole Les Mis thing for Cameron McIntosh, and Jeremy Irons was there, and so but I've always liked him. So yeah, I got to do The Mission. If you've sponsored a stream, thank you, Sabrina. Really appreciate you. Really appreciate you a lot. And if you guys have sponsored a stream, you can do that through PayPal. That would be great. That gets right to me. I've got a bunch that I need to cover. A bunch of people have some people have been waiting for a while. I understand that. I haven't forgotten about you. I've got them here in the queue. Sometimes it's just appropriate for different reasons when to do them, but I will get on those. I've also got to do a couple other ones. I got one coming up on Billy Bob Thornton. I got to cover the Billy Bob Thornton one. If you want me to do a literary sponsored stream, you guys give me a bunch of ideas and email them to me so that I can pick from amongst those and get a theme. I'm happy to do those, and they really do support me. So I really appreciate you for sponsoring streams. Thank you so much. Yeah, we got that ourselves. So thank you, Jacob, for getting a membership right there. If you guys want to get memberships, again, I don't like the movie. I didn't like the idea, obviously, of the movie Challengers. I went to see that another awful movie. I didn't think it was good. The Boys on the Boat. I thought it was not a well done movie. I understand people who like the movie. I mean, it was a good family movie to go see. It was around Christmas last year, but these types of movies, I think, they're missing something. And I saw the trailer for Challengers, and I thought I was horrified. Obviously, and it was exactly what I thought it was going to be. Except, I did like that there was something new in the movie in terms of how the story came together with tennis as a medium for that. Because, I mean, tennis is used as a dramatic, as a kind of a badinage, as Norm called it, to mix my metaphors here, where in Henry V, remember, Hal goes and plays tennis in France at the end of, and it's a form of it's a game. There's a game happening where we have a conversation, a back and forth between two people. Remember in Henry V, also remember the Dauphin sends him the tennis balls, right? but it's a form of we're gonna have a conversation, right? Can we parlay? But it also becomes an insult. But anyway, I liked how that happened in the movie about how we are trying to figure out characters and what's going to happen. I thought that was cool. I mainly liked the score, but so I don't like that we go into straight up Skittles, degeneracy in the films, obviously. But there was something in movies like that where you can take something from it, and I think that that's important. Hey, Jake, who's that? Jacob sends $5. Will video games take over as a storytelling medium? Hey, that's a good question, and in many ways they have. They already have. I'm not a gamer. I'm a geriatric millennial, so I missed the boat on video games, but I do understand them because if you're online, terminally online all the time, or you're you know, I mean, I mainly honestly started to understand video games through listening to Revenge of the Sith or listening to Mersh at Nightwave because they would always talk about Mersh would always talk about Elder Scrolls, and then through watching Nick Mullen streams, and I started to sort of make my way into it through that, and then I often will listen to Oblivion music or Skyrim or something, Skyrim medieval music or whatever in the background while I'm doing things. And I think that they have taken over. Is that what's interesting about video games is that for a long time you could tell that that's what the industry wanted to happen, but we just weren't there yet, and now we are there. Now we're almost past that. So in many ways, they have taken over as a storytelling medium, because especially young, Gen Z understands video game references and storytelling arcs through video games, not movies. I think that in common, the kind of Ready Player One, the kind of first person, the one PS, the kind of choose your own adventure, old school style of choose your own adventure book that's taken now, into a Red Dead Redemption and much further on from that, I think is a really interesting thing. I'm not well versed in it. I don't know. I don't play the games, but I do want to gain a better understanding of those things. I guess from an outsider perspective, because I think they're important. I don't think that that's to be taken lightly. So I think that is certainly taking a big chunk of what movies used to be. But Jacob says I don't think they will. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure yet if we're on the level of just something as a cultural phenomenon, or if it really has anywhere to go. We continuously get these things with Oculus and all this kind of stuff, these gimmicks, but we're not at a point yet where people are going to live in pod world. We're not at that point yet. But the fact that we talk about it like it's happening, I think, is important because it's actually probably more relevant how the fact that people live as if they are the stars of their own movies and they are living as if they're in a first person video game is probably more significant than actually playing the game itself. So the point might be that life has taken on this simulation aspect for many people, and also the fact that MSM now talks about simulation theory and all this nonsense and multiverse as if that's the guiding light of the paradigm of understanding some sort of spiritual worldview is probably more important and more dangerous than actually having those things exist. Does that make sense? But I don't think they're dangerous in themselves. I'm just saying the way of thinking about it. So, yeah, gamification. I mean, but these are the games we play. Yeah, I was talking about Shadow of the Vampire before I got lost. Shadow of the Vampire is a great movie. Willem Dafoe. It was supposed to star Nicolas Cage, but eventually he just became a producer on it. But it's interesting because it's about Nosferatu and the making of Nosferatu. It's got John Malkovich as not Fritz Lang. He's not. Is it Fritz Lang? Who directed Nosferatu? Um, it might be Fritz Lang. I can't remember. Somebody put that in the comments afterwards. Whoever directed Nosferatu. You see the sunset, a man, a monkey. It's a great movie. It's very funny. It's a dark comedy. Willem Dafoe is fantastic because it's a meta movie. It's Nosferatu playing the character of Nosferatu, but he actually is the vampire. But they're treating him like an actor in the movie. It's very good. It's a very funny movie. So I'm interested to see this one because this one will be a serious treatment, and it's Nicolas Cage and of course Willem Dafoe again. So we'll see about that. So Chris mentions Werner Herzog. You know, Werner Herzog came onto my psychic mental radar earlier this week because there are a couple of things that I really like. You know, I'm a guy with simple pleasures. You know, I like reading books, of course. I like watching movies. I'm a movie watcher. I'm a movie enjoyer and appreciator. I'm a music enjoyer. You know, you know, like when we covered Moon, right? All I need is you if you want to send somebody in deep space, okay. I really would be the perfect guy for that in a number of ways. I'm a pretty solitary person. All I need is a Gertie robot assistant. You know, like Gertie and Moon. It's just like I need like an R2D2. And infinite movies, infinite books to read. You know, I need Red Bulls, Tang. I can eat airplane food forever. I can eat cafeteria and airplane food and infinite Vicodin or something. You know, up on a space pod. And I'll do the instruments for you. I'll do whatever the fucking thing is, checking the weather. I mean, I would be fine with that. But I think that's one of the reasons why I also took to The Thing so strongly. The movie The Thing that we just covered. You know, I was talking to Jethro about this, and you know, this is a movie that I totally, I totally avoided for most of my life because, and I was kind of right about that because the horror of the horror elements of it really are horrifying to me, and I don't like the squanchy blood and all that stuff, but the fact that they're on an Antarctic base, you know, is that's I like that. I like disaster movies. I like simple pleasures. I like watching streams or YouTube videos mainly about, or I like watching television mainly about mighty cruise ships, you know, treasure hunting in the ocean, World War II documentaries, and life in Antarctica. That's like I can watch that stuff endlessly. I watched Antarctica videos for like 4 days last week straight. That's all I watched. And I just like watching that stuff. I just, you know, I can watch endless videos about life at McMurdo. I just like that kind of stuff. So why did I mention Antarctica? Because I don't know why I mentioned that. I don't know where I got on that little train with, but I like Antarctica. By the way, speaking of The Thing, I might do a follow-up with members on The Thing because you know, in thinking about the paradigm, the spiritual elements in The Thing, and this, you know, so I don't know. My question about The Thing, I'll just say this is, and we sort of brought this up on the stream, is that the spiritual element is noticeably absent in the movie because we have a biological element, but it's a Deus Ex Machina in a way, but they're aliens, right? And so my question is, why is the spaceship wobbling at the beginning of the film? Are the aliens in it never seen in their true form? Because maybe did the aliens crash because in the film because they were also possessed by this demonic spirit or this fallen entity. And the reason I say that is because there is some sort of archon element to the movie when the only spiritual really element of the movie is where Kurt Russell says trust in God. That's a great line in the movie, but also that the way that the thing transforms reminds me of punishments in Dante's Inferno. So you have these body shock, body horror elements. I mean, they're in one of the elements, in the Inferno is when characters walk around with their heads on backwards, or I kept trying because I did an analysis of the Inferno, but I can't remember. There's stuff with stomachs, but I can't remember a stomach opening up and eating someone. But the way the final thing looks is as a kind of like he's Minos or something. Like he's when Minos appears in the Inferno, right, with his tail wrapped around people forever at the edge of the abyss. And I think that seems to be what the characters are supposed to engender in my mind. But I don't know. We'll get to that later if you want to do that. If you want me to do a member stream on that. But that's about it, you guys. Thank you for being here. If you want to support me, you can do that anytime, and I really do appreciate that. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. That's great support. Please make sure you like and share the stream. Help me to get these numbers up. I'm almost at 300,000 views. Can you believe it? I can't believe it. Thank you all for being here. That's great. I really appreciate you, and I love the little community that we have right here going on, and help me to get these numbers up. Help me to get to 4,000, you guys. I got to get up to 4,000 subs. I think that'll be great if we can do that. So I'm actually going to play you out tonight to play us out. What does that mean to play us out? All right, go. And that's Sting and cut off his new album. Take it away. I'm actually going to play us out tonight. I'm sorry if I yelled too much. I hope the gain didn't get too bad in this. But the mic, the mic situation, it is what it is, as Dr. Phil says. What does Dr. Phil says? I understand that you have DID, MPD, BPD, but my question is, what if you didn't? I'm going to play us out with Rooks G and a cut off his new side project. You guys, you can go to his channel, Clinically Alive, and this song is called I Actually Had Dreams About Pools. This is Rooks G. This is our friend. Make sure that you like and you subscribe to his channel and tell him where you came from. Tell him that you came from right over here, because we love our Rooks G music and ROOXG. But this is Clinically Alive. This is his side project, and this is I Actually Had Dreams About Pools, and then You're Not Here. Okay, this is some ambient soundscape stuff. Okay, so please check out his alt channel and please sub and make sure you tell him that you came from here. Thank you guys for being here. If you supported and I didn't get to you, I will get to you next time. But please think about supporting me. I really appreciate it. And we're going to go strong into the rest of October, strong in the rest of the fall. I got a lot coming up, a lot of books. The last 12 books that I've read, I haven't covered here, and I probably won't cover. I mean, I've talked about them a little bit, but I need to get back into. Somebody give me some ideas for things to cover here in the canon of literature. I'm going to go back to Shakespeare and Renaissance poetry, of course. And people have sponsor streams, but I really need to get back into it. Okay, so I'm gonna hit this right here. You can find the link. Let's see. I'll try to drop the link also in the chat afterwards. But this is Rooks G with I Actually Had Dreams About Pools. Thank y'all. I love you so much. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you, and hopefully we got some new movies coming out, some new books. That's all I got. Was it worth it? Yeah, it's worth it. If you're strong enough. Here's Rooks G. Peace. Here's a link right here. Chill music to play us out here. Play us out. What does that mean to play us out? All right, y'all. Gang, peace.
I have done Titus Andronicus, Digital Minefield, Maddie. I did Titus. I did a whole stream on Titus and the movies. Night, night, gang. Here comes Rooks G with You're Not Here. Shouts out to the night crawlers out there. All the night people. All the dawn crawlers, the night crawlers. Love you guys. Hope you have a great night. And